Another episode of our ultimate compression and compressors guide here on MixbusTv. In this video, the best and cheapest FET analog compressors. Here we go. Hello everyone, welcome back to MixbusTv. Hope you're having a great day. Before we start, check the info box down below for my mixing courses on ProMix Academy, free plugins, special offers and discount. And if you want to become a MixbusTv member, support the channel and access to exclusive content like exclusive videos, posts, mix consultations via email and Skype with me, and also Pro Tools sessions and files to download, click the join button down here, see all the perks of becoming a MixbusTv member. But let's get to the video. In this video, the best and cheapest FET analog compressors. One of my favorite topology. If you want to know more about all the differences between topologies, opto, FET, vari-mu, diode bridge compressors, watch the whole series, watch the first episode in which I break down each topology, what they're good for, what they're usually used on, common settings, and so on. Let's start with the most famous FET analog compressor, the one that we see in every studio, whether home studio, professional studio. Let's get that out of the way. It's the Uray 1176. Now, the original unit is not available anymore, but there are so many reissues and improvement on the original design and so many versions out there in the market. At some point in my career, I had sort of a love-hate relationship with 1176 style compressors. I had two Universal Audio that later on I sold. While the controls are very simple, it has only input and output levels, attack and release, and ratio. It takes a minute to get used to the style of compression, what it's good for, and what you should look for when you use one. But after selling my hardware and using successfully plugins, which are gonna be in the next video, I kind of miss the hardware, especially for tracking. So my choice for number one for this list is the unit that I bought after selling those two that I had. And it's behind me on my desk is the West Audio Mimas. Many reasons because I put this in number one. First of all, it's one slot 500 series as opposed to two rack units of the original 1176. And if you open it up, there's not that much stuff in it. So it always rubbed me the wrong way. I mean, it's cool to have big units, but space nowadays matters too. So one slot 500 series. It has premium current transformers in it. It's full analog, digitally controlled. I have a video review on it and many other West Audio units. They all work the same. So you can control the hardware via plugin, via the interface you have on your computer. You can do automation. You can instantly recall preset as many as you want. You have A/B preset on the front panel. And the Mimas in such small format also has improvement on the original design, like high pass filter, which is so very important for me for 1176 style of compression because it's one of the favorite for bass, for example. So high pass filter is very important. It also has saturation independent from the compression. So you can press and hold a button and set the saturation on the Mimas independently from the compression, which is absolutely great. And the saturation on board sounds great too. I tracked so many vocals successfully with this compressor and they always turn out great. They always turn out dynamically, so controlled, almost radio ready. People commented for the longest time about my popular hip-hop mixing course and they were saying how great the vocals were before the mixing. Well, those were tracked with this compressor. And number two, it had to be the 1176 Universal Audio, the official reissue of the Uray. I had two of these, like I said, and they sound great. Regardless how close it is to the original Uray, the 1176 by Universal Audio is probably the one that you see most commonly in every studio. Curious fact, in case you didn't know, 1176 LN, the name of the Universal Audio 1176 version, LN stands for low noise because the original design of the 1176 went through so many revisions, including the sought-after blue face. And the first one were a little bit noisy. The 1176 is a studio standard. Many companies make it. Blue Lion now makes a reissue of the blue face. Universal Audio makes the black face, but common uses are, we mentioned it, bass, vocals, drum bass, either in insert or parallel. They are great even just to add saturation. There's of course the super famous trick of all bottom mode to get that super aggressive compression and the crazy behavior of the attack and release, but there's also the no compression trick, which is just no button engage and just driving the input and output to get saturation, just the distortion out of it. And that was one of my favorite uses when I had the universal audio units. But FET compressors are not just 1176, and the next one is one of my favorite compressors, is the Drummer 1978. I have a dedicated video on it. If you're familiar with it, it's probably because of my video, because I love this compressor so much. I use it all the time. You don't see it in the desk, it's on the side. While FET compressors tend to be aggressive in your face and nervous somehow in their behavior, the 1178 is different. First of all the options in the internal side chain makes it suitable for basically everything, from 2-bus to group compression to single tracks. It has an EQ on board that you can use either to tailor the side chain, or if you move a jumper inside the unit, you can actually use the EQ on the output. It's really one of the most versatile compressor out there, close to the distressor versatility-wise. But the main difference is the saturation it adds. First of all, it has a dedicated saturation knob. So again, it's independent from the compression you apply. But the kind of saturation is not the punchy, greedy 1176 style. It's more a warm and fuzzy saturation. And it's great for warming up and reducing harshness on material that is a bit too bright and a bit too piercing. For example, it's great on electric guitar. The saturation knob, even if you don't compress, it's perfect to round off that edgy high end for distorted electric guitar. Same for vocals and same for like some synths. The color of this compressor is really unique, and if you combine it with the EQ capabilities, the name they gave it, Tone Shaper, it's perfect for this unit. And the price is absolutely stupid, so definitely check it out. Number 4 is something a little bit different and definitely one of a kind. Is the channel limiter germanium compressor. A FET compressor with a germanium amplifier. I love the color of this compressor. The sound of this unit is reminiscent of diode bridge almost, because of how thick the color can be, but you can definitely adjust it and dose it with the feedback and the other controls on the unit. It's thick and very colored, and the more you push it, the more color you get out of it. I love germanium based gear in general. This one does have a very vintage, like old school vibe color to it. Even the controls, if you look at the front panel, are unique to this compressor. It has a curve control for the compression. The germanium section, it's totally independent from the compression. It has sidechain filter and a mix knob, which is very useful for compressors like this. It's a mono unit, so you will probably want to, but definitely check it out, channel limiter germanium. And number 5, Daikin FET 3. Daikin is another brand that makes great gear. I think it's a little bit under the radar right now, even though it's well known in the industry. It was probably more popular some time ago, but they make absolutely great gear. This is the 3rd version of their popular FET compressor, and it's a great unit. It's stereo. This one is on the clean side of FET compressors. But when we say clean and we talk about Daikin, and I'm very familiar with their preamps, I use them all the time in a studio I work here, they still add a sheen, they still add a certain polish to the material. It's a characteristic color. I wouldn't say even color, more like character, I don't know. Especially in the mid-range high end, it's very smooth and it's very polished, but still detailed. That's the best I can describe Daikin gear. It's almost hi-fi sounding, but still it definitely has an analog imprint on it. And it's a workhorse compressor. That's the beauty of having a unit that is not too much colored, you know, and it has great amount of control. So Daikin FET 3, and it's the Serpent audio splice. This one is an 1176 on steroid, basically. Brilliant design. The splice is basically both the black face and the blue face in one unit. I absolutely love that. I love this one on the plugin, so let alone on the hardware. But they took the concept even further, and you can actually mix and match the input and output circuitries. For example, blue input with black output and vice versa, or having all black or all blue, because the differences, most of the differences, if not all of them, are the input and output sections and the components. So they basically put all of them in one unit, and you can mix them, match them, or have the blue face and the black face. I think it's a brilliant design. It also has a mix knob on board, a sidechain filter, variable impedance, and they also make a 500 series of this, which I never tried. And a side note to mention is the Serpent audio gear is built really well. Like, to the touch, it feels very sturdy. metal knobs, so that's something that I noticed and I wanted to mention it. I'm putting this one last because it's a FET compressor, but it's also a multi-band, is the Mighty Drummer 1973. First of all, this compressor must be one of the best deal on the market, like one of the best bang for your buck. You know, I have pretty much all the drummer gear. My controller, I have now the new 1970 on my desk, the 74, the 76, the 78, and the 73. And I can tell you this must be one of the most musical compressors out there. Of course, you need to get used to it and familiar because it's a multi-band compressor, so it takes a little bit to set correctly and you can mess things up. But also, for being a hardware, multi-band compressor must be the easiest to set up. So in the grand scheme of things, it's a little more complicated than, you know, a wideband compressor with just input, output, and threshold. Because you have 3 bands, you have to set the crossover frequency, but also it's so musical that it's so easy to make it sound good. And I do have a video review on this one, so if you're interested, watch that video. I go through all the specifics and plenty of examples on how it sounds. It has some specific features like the big button and the air, which add that sheen on top. That is, it doesn't go well for everything, but when it works, it's pretty unique. You have great amount of control with this one. You also have automatic settings for each band, which make it foolproof almost. It works as a 2-bus compressor. I use it successfully. It works great on groups, and it also works great on single tracks. I actually mixed MC Solar vocal, lead vocal with this compressor on it. So it's not just for stereo use, it works amazing on single tracks while it's not dual mono, so you have just one set on controls. Don't overlook the fact that you can use it on single tracks because it's a great vocal compressor. The color on this one is very subtle, but you can hear it. It's still, again, on the warm, fuzzy side more than aggressive and greedy 1176 style, while being still a FET compressor. For a cheaper option, Purple Audio make their version of the 1176 in 500 series. Note that the purple is a different take on the 76. It's a little bit brighter, it's a little more saturated. Some people like it, some people don't. Sometimes it helps things cut through the mix, but depends on who you ask. Lastly, one unit that I want to mention is the Overstay at the stereo field effect, which is a very, very greedy colored and character unit. I had it in demo for a while. That's why I wanted to mention it. So I tried it myself and I really liked it. Unfortunately, the demo, when it arrived to me, it was a little bit beat up. So some controls didn't quite work as intended. It was like scratchy, but it was because it was a demo unit. It was like running around several studios, so someone must have either dropped it or treated it not that well. But I remember being bummed about it because I really liked it. It reminded me of the Fatso from Empirical Lab, but more color, more density in it. I really like that unit. On top of the dynamic control and the classic FET behavior, it was also very versatile. It had controls for harmonics, added the harmonics, and no linearity for added saturation. So if you get a chance, check this one out. And lastly, the absolute cheapest option for an analog FET 1176 style compressor, if you really, really want a piece of metal in your studio, there's the Clare Technique 1176 for less than $400. I never tried this one. I have no idea how it is, but you can probably demo it and shoot out with the plugins, because that's the thing. 1176 plugins are absolutely great nowadays. And when I sold my hardware units, it's because I was using plugins very successfully and I didn't feel the need at the time. Then, you know, we change, we have other needs, and I needed the tracking and I bought another unit. But that's gonna be the next video, the best FET compressor plugin 2020, so stay tuned. This is it for this video. I hope it was useful. I hope you liked it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like. Check the info box down below before you go. Click the join button if you want to support the channel. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time.